Hey, family, welcome to Keep It Raw. My name is Ravel. Thank you for tuning in to Keep It Raw Relationship Channel. I've been out for a while, but I'm back. And so continue to pray for the channel because I pray that it bless somebody and even you. So today I want to dive right into what I have to serve is the spirit of man and ego and how it affect relationships. Because when we think of ego, men come to mind instantly. Like if you saw it in a dictionary, it should be a man face there, and sometimes that's misguided because women have egos as well. But today I do want to dwell on men and their ego and how it impact relationships in an awful way. And so this is a message for us men out there. My goal is for you to start looking at yourself and say, let's do something different. Because what we don't want and what is actually happening is women are becoming like men. And so, and that's no win in that. There's no win in that. So, men, we're going to have to begin to take the bull by the horn and begin to look at ourselves and humble ourselves before God, because I want you to understand why there's egos and why it need to be fed constantly to the detriment of the person who carry it. And so, ego again is a bloated up, inflated ego, self image of self. But again, it's a excessive interest or admiration of oneself and one's physical appearance. And so, but where did ego come from, and how do it affect relationships? Because when you want to be God and everything is about you, it's going to be a quick path to nowhere. No matter how much it seems like you're blessed and how much you think things are going in your favor, it's a road to nowhere. Because that ego started with the devil when he decided, I will ascend above the Most High. And he wanted to sit up on the throne of God. He was high ranked. He was a beautiful musician. He was dressed different than all other angels. He had certain power and authority that God had given him, and he wanted to he came to the place where he wanted to be greater than God. And so that ego always make you envy and want to be greater. And so that's not going to work in relationships when you have somebody envy and they're looking at you with scorn. They want to defeat you so they can shine. And that's what ego does with men and with women. And that's why people can't get along, because we're dealing in a selfish hour. It's me, my, and I. And that's the spirit of the age. And we have to look at ourselves to begin to shed ourselves from the spirit of the age. So the devil decided he wanted to be like God. And so men with the ego decide he's God. It's the same spirit that the devil had that got him kicked out of heaven, that caused the judgment and all the mess we see comes from ego. Him deciding he wanted to overthrow God. And it will never happen in a billion years. Your ego will never be fulfilled. So it's going to continue seeking and want what it cannot have. And so, and it's always self-promoting. It's promoting self all the time. Me, my, and I. That's the spirit of it. And so in relationships, because it takes two to become one, it's the way God created Adam and Eve. Ego is death to a relationship. When the man said it have to be just his way and he can't communicate and compromise, it's not going to work. When a lady emotionally think it have to go according to what she feel and think, it's not going to work. And that's why you have millions and millions of people by themselves. And if you one of them, you're going to have to humble yourself. Your ego, there's no space for your ego. It's not that you're not a good person in some ways. It's not that you're not pretty or beautiful. That's not that, and the same with men. That's not that you don't have money or you're smart or eligible or somebody that's desirable. Your ego won't allow you to coexist with nobody else, so you deserve to be all by yourself. And that's as real as I can give it to you. You're going to have to take a look at yourself, as well as I have to take a look at myself. I'm in that stage of looking at myself, and not according to other people, but according to what God said. So the devil started this ego thing and decided he was going to be greater than God. And we see it in the Garden of Eden, same thing. Eve, he used her and enticed her with ego. Told her to eat something that God said not to. And he said, God know that when you do, if you eat that, you're going to become like God. And when she saw that it was something that looked beautiful and desirable to make one wise, she took and ate and she gave it to her husband Adam. And then when God confronted him, Adam said, "The woman you gave me." Look at the ego. He would have never thought to blame God like that. Ego caused you to have this bloated uh, mindset. Instead of Adam humbling himself, he told God, "The woman you gave me to eat, and I ate it." See that ego? He dared talk to God that way. And so we all have to begin to humble ourselves. But I want to dive from Satan, ego, and in relationship, men have this ego where it have to be their way or it's the highway. Now you got this new age woman, she's saying it's my way or the highway. But man with his ego and being like the devil, now women are taking on the mindset, I want to be like the man. I want to be, so the devil wanted to be like God. Man wanted now be like the devil. He want to control all evil, everything that's not right. He want to be God. And a woman wants to be like the man. You see how that's going? Now the kids are coming in on that. You have little kids want to tell grown folks what to do and what not to do. It's the same devilish ego. And this is what's destroying relationships. You that's single and you want a person, a man, or a man, you want a woman, and you just can't seem to find the right person, start with not standing up, but start with sitting down and humbling yourself. Because the way up is down. And so everybody is overly bloated about themselves, how they look, how their body look, their money, their selfish ambition. And some people don't realize selfish ambition is not the will of God. You say, what? It's not the will of God. And so even in Philippians, it said, do nothing out of selfish ambition and vain conceit. Most people projection, Christ would have been a failure. The very Son of God, he would have been a failure because he didn't have a big bank account. He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a palace. And that's why people rejected him, because he was not what their ego was willing to accept. He was a king, and he didn't have a kingdom. He said, my kingdom is not of this earth, it's of heaven. And they couldn't accept that. Ego mean I have to have the biggest house. And you got filthy rich people looking to see, I want a bigger house. I'm going to tear down my barn. I'm going to build it with a bigger one. And so when you're in a relationship with somebody like that, it's a constant roller coaster ride of trying to compete, try to hold on, trying to stay with this person. It won't work. And so I wanted to read this before I get ready to end. But David had a son, Absalom. And Absalom in 2 Samuel 14:25, it says, but in all Israel, there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the soles of his feet, even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish found in Absalom. That was King David's son. And he did a whole lot of stuff. He was full of pride, full of ego, and he wanted everybody to acknowledge his beauty. He wanted everybody to see him. He had all this big hair and so forth, heavy hair and so forth. And he ended up having sex with one of David's wives and so forth, and did a lot of other stuff, and they ended up being murdered. And why do men have ego? It's because they want attention. And so women have to find a way to give men attention, because if they don't receive attention or you don't give them attention, they get it themselves by saying, hey, look at me. Am I great? Look what I did. Look at my body. Look at my money. Look what my house. Look at my car. And so that's an unspoken competition regarding this ego. And so when men become like that, now women have become like that. They have become arrogant before God. And so now you have men and women in trouble because of ego. So in a relationship, men, we're going to have to humble ourselves. Adam was to lead, but he was to lead in humility like Christ. Christ didn't come and make himself Lord over people. He said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. He didn't knock people's doors down. He didn't boast of who he was. Stop thinking yourself to be greater than what you are. And that's where the ego come in relationship, and it caused this tug of war. It caused these arguments, this bitterness, this frustration, and it caused two people to forget and to reject what God created to be one. Stop thinking you have to control the woman. You have to love her as Christ did the church, and he gave himself for her. And if she's the right one, she's going to respect that. And if she's not the right one, she's not going to respect it, because ego is not going to respect anything except what self receive. And so you have to reject the ego. And let me read down in verse 28. This is in 2 Samuel 14. And Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem, but did not see the king's face. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent again a second time, he would not come to him. So Absalom sent for Joab, and he would not come to him. So he said to his servant, see, Joab's field is near mine, and he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Because Absalom didn't get his way, he said, go and destroy his field. Because he didn't acknowledge me. He didn't pay attention to me. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom's house and said to him, why have your servant set my field on fire? And Absalom answered Joab, notice this, look, I sent to you saying, come here so that I may send you to the king to say, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now, therefore, let me see the king's face, but if there is iniquity in me, let him execute me. So Joab went to the king and told him. Now, see how he used this passive aggressiveness and this control? He used a certain type of control and burned down Joab's field until he came. He said, why did you burn down my field? Because I sent for you and you didn't come. See that ego? You see that ego Absalom had with all his big hair? And there was no blemish in him, so he wanted everybody to praise him all the time. And so you have men like that have this super ego, and everything have to be about them. You can't be in a relationship with a person like that. They're going to have to humble themselves, or you're going to have to help them to see that and love them enough to help them understand they need to be spiritually renewed, because ego is a spiritual deformity, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So for you men out there, I'm asking you to join me in seeking God and humble yourself, because no relationship you're in is going to work. No woman is going to be pretty enough. She's not going to be smart enough. She's not going to have enough money. She's not going to be tall enough, because your ego say, I deserve more. And that ego leads to lust, and that lust leads to damnation and destruction. So we're going to have to begin to humble ourselves, understanding the male ego and how it affects relationships. It's very difficult to coexist as two people becoming one when you have two twisted egos, the feminine ego and the masculine ego. Both are wrong, and that's why everybody is alone. I'm going to leave it at that.